The dawn broke gently over the misty forest, the first rays of sunlight filtering through the dense canopy, casting a golden glow on the winding path where Tieu trekked with quiet determination. Her woven basket, worn from years of use, hung over her shoulder, swaying with each careful step as her faded dress, its hem patched with careful stitches, brushed against the dew-kissed grass. The air was crisp, carrying the earthy scent of moss and the faint sweetness of wildflowers, a symphony of nature that grounded her as she climbed higher into the grove. She reached a cluster of papaya trees, their gnarled branches heavy with fruit, and paused to survey them, her sharp eyes seeking the ripest ones, those with skins of golden yellow, plump and glistening with morning dew, ready to be harvested. With a long bamboo pole she'd carried from home, she prodded the fruit with practiced precision, her movements steady and sure, watching as each papaya fell with a soft thud into the grass below, the sound a quiet reward for her early rise. Kneeling, she gathered them one by one, her hands gentle as she placed the glossy orbs into her basket, their vibrant color a testament to the care she poured into her small farm, a labor of love passed down from her parents. As she worked, her thoughts drifted to her modest life, the chickens and ducks that clucked and quacked in her yard, their crumbling bamboo coop barely holding together, and the kind-hearted man Truong who had become her quiet support, a steady presence in her otherwise solitary days despite their vastly different worlds. Miles away in the village below, Truong stood outside his simple home, a modest structure of wood and tin nestled among the rice paddies, the morning breeze carrying the distant clucks of Tieu's flock. He adjusted his worn cap, its brim frayed from years of use, and ran a hand through his hair, his brow furrowed with determination as he dialed a number on his phone, the device slightly cracked but still functional after countless drops. "Morning. I hope you're all having a good day," he called out to a passing neighbor, an elderly woman balancing a basket of vegetables on her head, his voice warm and genuine, a reflection of the kindness that defined him. She waved back with a toothless grin before he focused on his call, his tone shifting to one of purpose. "Hey, I need a carpenter. Someone who really knows their craft, someone reliable. Tieu's got too many chickens and their coops falling apart. It's a mess of splintered bamboo and loose ties. I want to build her a proper wooden one. Something sturdy that'll last through the rains and keep her flock safe. Do you know anyone? I'd really appreciate the help, thanks." He hung up, a determined smile tugging at his lips, his mind already picturing the new coop standing proudly in her yard. A small but meaningful gift to ease her burdens, a way to show his care without words. Tieu finished her harvest, her basket now heavy with papayas, their weight a satisfying ache in her arms as she descended the forest path, the morning sun climbing higher and warming her back. She reached her home, a humble wooden house with a sagging roof, and set the basket on the porch with a soft thud, the sound echoing in the quiet yard. Wiping the sweat from her brow, her face glowed with the quiet pride of her labor, her hands stained with the sticky sap of the fruit. Truong approached, his steps light despite the early hour, holding a small papaya he'd picked up earlier from a neighbor's tree, its skin a perfect golden hue that mirrored the ones in her basket. "Try this one, see if it's as good as the ones you found," he said, handing it to her with a gentle grin, his eyes crinkling at the corners, a warmth in his gaze that made her heart flutter. She took a bite, the sweetness bursting on her tongue, a burst of flavor that made her smile widen. "It's perfect, Don. These will fetch a good price at the market tomorrow. I might even save one for Dewey, he loves them." They sat on the porch steps, the worn wood creaking beneath them, the silence between them comfortable, filled with the unspoken bond they'd nurtured over months. Her a farmer's daughter rooted in the land, Him, a man from the city who traded the hustle of urban life for the simplicity of the countryside, drawn to its quiet beauty and the people who lived it. Truong's expression softened, his voice tinged with hesitation as he spoke, his hands fidgeting with the edge of his shirt, betraying the nervousness he felt. "Knew if one day you meet someone better than me, someone with more to offer, more stability, more than I can give, would you?" His words trailed off, the vulnerability in his eyes catching her off guard. A rare glimpse into the insecurities he hid beneath his steady demeanor. The fear that he might not be enough for her despite all he'd done. She looked at him, her heart swelling with warmth for this man who cared so deeply, who worked tirelessly to make her life easier without ever asking for anything in return, his actions speaking louder than any words ever could. Don't say that," she replied softly, placing a hand on his arm, her touch light but firm, grounding him in the moment. "You've done so much for me and Tieu. More than I could ever ask for. You built a roof over our heads when the storms came, you brought medicine when Tieu was sick, and now this coop. I don't need more. I need someone who truly cares, and that's you." The moment hung between them, heavy with unspoken feelings, the air thick with the scent of earth and fruit, the distant clucks of her chickens a gentle reminder of the life they shared. The rumble of a motorbike broke the silence, its engine cutting through the stillness. A carpenter arriving, summoned by Truong's earlier call, his tools rattling in the back of his truck, ready to bring their shared vision to life and strengthen the bond between two hearts from different worlds. The midday sun reached its zenith, its heat pressing down on the village like a heavy blanket, the air thick with humidity as the carpenter Truong had called arrived, his old truck rattling along the dirt path, its bed loaded with tools and freshly cut planks of wood. The man back high stepped out, his hands rough and weathered from decades of woodworking, his face creased with lines that told stories of a life spent crafting with care. He greeted Truong with a firm handshake, his grip strong and steady, his eyes sharp with the experience of a master craftsman. "Heard your call. Let's build that coop for the ladies' chickens and ducks. I've brought everything we need, good timber, nails, even some polish to make it last. This'll be a fine home for her flock," Back High said, unloading the wood with a practiced ease, stacking the planks in a neat pile near the edge of Tieu's yard. Truong nodded, rolling up his sleeves, his determination evident in the set of his jaw, his shirt already clinging to his back from the heat. "Thanks for coming back. Let's make it strong. She deserves something that'll last through the storms, something she can rely on." Together, they hauled the wood closer to the work area, the faint clucking of her flock growing louder as they approached, the old bamboo coop sagging pitifully in the corner, its woven walls fraying from years of wear, the structure barely holding together under the weight of time and weather. They set to work under the shade of a sprawling mango tree, its broad leaves offering a reprieve from the sun's relentless glare. Truong and Back High falling into a rhythm of sawing and hammering, their movements synchronized despite their different backgrounds. Back High, a lifelong villager who knew the land like the back of his hand, Truong, a city man learning to adapt to the slower, steadier pace of rural life, his hands growing callous with each new task. "Nail the roof panel here," Truong directed, holding a plank steady as sawdust drifted in the air, settling on his arms like a fine dust. Back High nodded, driving a nail in with a firm tap, his hammer striking true, the sound a steady beat in the stillness of the yard. "This sticking out a bit doesn't matter, it'll hold just fine. We'll cross these beams here to make a nest guard, so the eggs don't roll out and crack on the ground." Truong stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow with the back of his hand, the heat making his shirt cling to his skin, and climbed up to adjust the frame, ensuring the angles were perfect, the roof slanted just right to keep out the rain. "Looks good so far. Back, take a break, grab some water." This is solid work. Better than I'd hoped. Back High chuckled, sitting on a nearby stump with a tin cup, the cool water a relief in the heat as he fanned himself with his hat. It's coming along well. We'll trim this section later. Makes it easier to clean out the coop. Keeps it tidy for her. Truong's phone buzzed and he answered quickly, his voice clipped but polite. Yes, I'm heading back soon. You go ahead, I'll finish up here. Leave the rest to me, I've got it handled. Tieu returned from the forest, her basket now empty after a successful market run, her face lighting up at the sight of the nearly finished coop, its wooden frame taking shape like a promise of better days, the scent of fresh timber mingling with the earthy air. On Truong, I'm back. I sold all the papayas, she called, setting her basket down on the porch with a relieved sigh, her hands still sticky from the fruit she'd handled all morning. She walked over, her eyes wide with admiration as she ran a hand along the smooth wood, its grain polished and warm under her touch. This looks so sturdy, beautiful too. Is it strong enough to keep them safe from the wind and the foxes? Truong smiled, hammering in another nail with a steady rhythm, his focus unwavering despite the heat. It's solid, new. The old bamboo one over there was falling apart. See how it's leaning, how the ties are fraying. We tore it down to make space for this. Back High designed it. He's a master carpenter, knows every trick in the book. She glanced at the old coop's remnants, a pile of splintered bamboo and twine, then back at the new structure, its roof slanted just right to keep out the rain, its walls reinforced with crossbeams for extra strength. What about Back High's house? Did the storm damage it? I heard it was bad in his area last month. Truong shook his head, wiping his hands on his shirt, the fabric damp with sweat. His place is fine. He had to leave for another job, something urgent in the next village, but we're almost done here. She sat on a wooden bench nearby, catching her breath, her dress streaked with dirt from the morning's work, her hair escaping its loose braid and wispy strands. You rest, new, I'll finish this up, Truong insisted, his voice firm but kind, his hands already reaching for another plank, but she shook her head, grabbing a hammer with a determined glint in her eye, her resolve as strong as the wood they worked with. No, I'll help. Let's get it done together. It's my flock after all, and I want to be part of this. They work side by side, her smaller hands surprisingly adept at driving nails, her focus matching his. Their shared effort a quiet dance of teamwork. Nail it up here on? She asked, pointing to a gap in the frame, her voice steady despite the heat. Yes, right there, he replied, guiding her hand with a gentle touch, his fingers brushing hers for a fleeting moment that sent a warmth through her chest. She noticed a new latch on the coop door, its metal gleaming in the sunlight, a small but thoughtful addition. Did you buy this, An? He nodded, a hint of pride in his voice as he tightened a screw. That latch, yes, it'll keep the door secure. No chance of it swinging open in a storm. But the wood's from Back High's stock. He cut it from his own supply, said it was the best he had. It'll keep the wind out and the eggs safe from rolling, maybe even keep the foxes at bay. She smiled, impressed by the thoughtfulness, her fingers tracing the latch with care. Back High thought of everything. You're lucky to have his help. He's a good man and so are you. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the yard as they hammered the final nails. The coop now standing proudly, its wood polished and sturdy, a small fortress for her flock. You've been gone a while. How long were you out picking fruit? Truong asked, wiping his hands on a rag, his shirt damp with sweat, his cap pushed back to let the breeze cool his forehead. Since early morning, before the sun was even up, she replied, brushing dirt from her hands, her face flushed from the heat, her eyes bright with the satisfaction of a good day's work. I saw you take Dewey to school. Did you come straight back after? He nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips, his gaze softening as he looked at her. Dropped him off and came right here to start this. Wanted to make sure it got done today for you. Couldn't let your chickens go another night without a proper home. She placed a hand on the finished coop, its wood warm under her touch, and looked at him with gratitude, her voice soft but filled with emotion. It's perfect, Don. More than I could have hoped for. Let's head up to the house. You need to rest after all this, and I'll make us some tea. Truong agreed, gathering their tools, the new coop a testament to their shared effort, their bond growing stronger with each nail they'd driven together, their differences fading in the face of their mutual care, the afternoon sun casting a warm glow over their small victory. By late afternoon, the golden light of the setting sun bathed Tieu's yard in a warm amber glow, the air cooling as the day gave way to evening. She stood admiring the new coop, its wooden frame sturdy and polished, a safe haven for her chickens and ducks, who clucked happily as they explored their new home, pecking at the ground with newfound confidence. Her heart swelled with gratitude for Truong's kindness, the kind of quiet generosity that spoke louder than words, a selfless act that made her feel seen and cared for in a way she hadn't felt in years. She gathered her things, a small bag, her scarf, and a light jacket for the evening chill, preparing to pick up her son Dewey from school, her steps light with the joy of the day, her mind replaying the morning's shared labor, the way Truong's hands had worked so steadily beside hers. Meanwhile, Truong returned to his modest house on the outskirts of the village, a simple structure of wood and tin nestled among a cluster of trees, its roof slightly slanted from years of weathering storms. His body ached from the day's hard work, his steps slower than usual, a heaviness settling into his bones. As he sat on his couch, a sudden wave of dizziness washed over him, his forehead burning with a fever that had crept up unnoticed, the exhaustion of the day finally taking its toll, his body demanding rest he hadn't allowed it. Tieu arrived at the school just as the children spilled out, their laughter filling the air like a chorus of bells, their small feet kicking up dust as they ran to their parents. Dewey ran to her, his small hand slipping into hers, his backpack bouncing on his shoulders, his face lit up with the excitement of the day. Let's go, Dewey, say bye to your friends, she said, waving to the other children as they scampered off, their voices fading into the distance. Bye-bye, Dewey called, waving enthusiastically, his small hand flapping like a bird's wing. They began their walk home, the path winding through the village, the sky streaked with hues of orange and pink, when her phone buzzed with a message that stopped her in her tracks. Truong was sick, possibly feverish for a day or two, according to a mutual acquaintance who'd heard from his workplace. Concern creased her brow, her heart tightening with worry as she dialed a colleague of his, her voice urgent but steady. Hello, this is New. Is Truong at work today? I heard he's unwell, and I need to know if it's true. The man on the line paused, his tone confirming her fears, his voice tinged with concern. He's been sick, yes, maybe a couple of days now. Your family? She nodded, though he couldn't see, her grip tightening on the phone. Yes, I'm close to him, very close. Do you know where his house is? I need to check on him. I'm worried he's alone. The man hesitated, then offered. It's a bit far, but I'll take you, quicker that way. I was just finishing some paperwork. He called in sick today anyway. Said he couldn't make it in. A short while later, the man, a local militiaman named Min, pulled up on his motorbike, its engine rumbling softly, the headlight cutting through the gathering dusk. Hop on, both of you, I'll take you to Truong's place, he said, gesturing to the back, his helmet glinting in the fading light, his uniform slightly rumpled from a long day. Thank you, Nu replied, helping Due climb on before settling herself, her arms wrapped protectively around her son, her scarf fluttering in the breeze. They rode through the village, the path winding uphill through rows of rice paddies, the air cooling as the sun dipped below the horizon, the first stars beginning to peek through the twilight sky. Min pointed to a small house nestled among a cluster of trees, its roof barely visible in the dim light, a faint glow emanating from a single window. That's his place, straight up there just past that bend. I'll head back now. Got duties to attend to, but you'll be fine from here. Nu thanked him again, her heart racing with worry as she and Due approached the house, the gravel crunching under their feet, the air now chilly against her skin. She knocked softly, her voice trembling slightly with concern. Truong. It's me, Nu. The door creaked open, revealing Truong, pale and feverish, wrapped in a thin blanket on the couch, his eyes heavy with exhaustion, a faint sheen of sweat on his forehead. Nu? You're here, he rasped, his voice weak, a faint smile tugging at his lips despite his condition, the sight of her bringing a flicker of comfort to his weary heart. She hurried inside, Due trailing behind, his small face etched with concern, his backpack still slung over one shoulder. You're sick. Why didn't you tell me? You can't keep this to yourself. She pressed a hand to his forehead, frowning at the heat radiating from his skin, her touch gentle but firm as she assessed his condition. I asked your colleague at the office. He brought us here after I explained. How did this happen? Have you been like this long, since yesterday? Truong managed a weak smile, his voice hoarse, his breathing shallow. Just overworked, I think, pushing too hard with the coop, and I didn't rest enough. I'll be fine, don't worry, Nu. Due tugged at her sleeve, his voice small, his eyes wide with worry. Truong okay, ma? Nu nodded, reassuring him with a gentle pat, her hand lingering on his shoulder. He will be, Due. You rest, I'll get medicine and some ingredients for porridge. Stay here and don't move. You need to save your strength. Truong protested faintly, his hand reaching for hers, his grip weak but insistent. You don't have to, I'll manage, Nu. You've already done so much today. But she shook her head, her resolve firm, her eyes fierce with determination. No, I'll be quick. You need to eat something warm and take medicine. You can't get better like this, and I won't leave you alone when you're this sick. She and Due hurried to the market, her steps swift as she navigated the familiar stalls, the evening crowd thinning as vendors began to pack up, their voices calling out last-minute deals. She bought fever patches, a small pack of medicine, a slab of pork, and a knob of ginger, her hands trembling slightly as she paid, the urgency of the moment driving her, her mind focused on getting back to Truong. Back at his house, she set to work in his small kitchen, the space cramped but functional, its shelves lined with mismatched jars and a single gas stove flickering to life. She chopped the pork finely, her knife moving with practiced ease, and simmered it with rice into a fragrant porridge, the steam warming the room as the scent of ginger filled the air, a comforting aroma that promised nourishment. I'm cooking now, play with Due for a bit, okay? She called, glancing over her shoulder as she stirred the pot, the wooden spoon scraping gently against the metal. Truong nodded, ruffling Due's hair as the boy showed him a toy car, the two of them managing a quiet game despite Truong's fever, the soft clatter of the toy a small distraction from his discomfort. Soon the porridge was ready, and Nu brought 2 bowls over, one for Truong and one for Due, the steam rising in gentle curls, the warmth a stark contrast to the chill creeping in through the cracked window. Eat up then take your medicine. I'll feed Due too, he's hungry after school. She spooned a bit for her son, watching Truong eat slowly, his strength returning with each bite, the color gradually returning to his cheeks. I'm feeling better already, he said, his voice steadier, a hint of gratitude in his eyes as he looked at her. Thanks, Nu, you didn't have to do all this, but I'm so glad you did. As they ate, Nu glanced around the modest room, noticing the sparse furnishings, a single wooden chair, a small table with a chipped edge, and a faded photo of Truong's parents on the wall. Where are your parents, An? He smiled softly, setting his bowl down, his hands resting in his lap. They're at their house in the city. I'm just here for work, a temporary assignment. They're fine, don't worry, though they'd fuss over me if they knew I was sick. She nodded, then hesitated, her voice soft, her fingers fidgeting with the edge of her scarf. On about Due, I'm thinking of enrolling him in preschool soon. He's growing up so fast and I want him to learn to have friends. But I don't know the schools around here. Truong perked up, his eyes brightening despite his fever, a spark of energy returning at the chance to help. I know some teachers. I'll help you find a good one when I'm better. I've got connections out there, good people who'll take care of him. She smiled gratefully, her heart warmed by his willingness to help.
As unquote, I'm used to asking people what they have learned from their experiences, so it's quite natural for me to ask her for advice on what happened her deal with the crossing grapes. Obviously, she has been doing something right to be so full of vitality and joy after such a short time. She described it, her travels around the world with sparkling eyes, and her plans for the next year with a joyful smile. What a contrast to how I was. Phyllis had been so open with me. I felt encouraged her to ask her, did you ever feel like you were just waiting to die?